Hello everyone, in this video I'll be ranking the best classes in patch 8 of Baldur's Gate 3 on a tier list. So this is going to be taking into account all of the new subclasses that got added to the game and what they bring to the table. Maybe some classes got better. I personally think that the Warlock is now a much better option in the game, so we'll be breaking them all down in this video here. First, starting with the Sorcerer. So with the Sorcerer, their newest subclass is the Shadow Magic Sorcerer. What I think is great about this is it allows you to play more of a stealth focused class, and you get at level 3 the Eyes of the Dark Shadow, which lets you cast a darkness spell on the ground and gives you the ability to see in it. Now previously there's only one class that could do that, and there was a Warlock with their Devil's Sight. This now offers two classes in the game so that you can see in darkness. There's also the Eversight Ring, the Steel Watcher Helmet, and the Shard Spear of the Evening if you go for an evil playthrough. So previously, if you did an evil playthrough, you could have a full darkness team if you wanted to not repeat any of the classes. Now you can have a Shadow Sorcerer and a Warlock alongside the Eversight Ring and the Steel Watcher Helmet and have a full party in darkness without having to be evil. So that's pretty cool in itself. I personally still think the Draconic Bloodline is going to be the very best subclass because this allows you to add your Charisma modifier to an elemental damage type. Lightning, Cold, and Fire being the best three, because Scorching Ray, getting that extra Charisma modifier, +7 on every Scorching Ray is pretty nice. And the Storm Sorcerer is still very valid. You get Create Water with this, allowing you to double your Lightning and Cold damage spells. The Wild Magic is still actually pretty strong, although it's a bit more random in what happens. I think that the Shadow Magic still keeps the Sorcerer in the S tier position. With the Shadow Magic, once we get level 6, we get ourselves the Hound of Ill Omen. So we can summon in the dog, which costs us a bonus action and 3 sorcery points. However, it can also allow us to regenerate our sorcery points. So when we summon the dog in, it's going to do an Ominous Bite as its main attack here, and unfortunately it doesn't get any level scaling, so the 42 health that it has stays the same even if you're level 12. But this Ominous Bite, it does 3d6 piercing damage and possibly places an omen on the target if they fail the Constitution saving throw. So the omen can be any elemental damage type, so I recommend having Chromatic Orb, because then you can hit, like if it's a fire omen, you got a fire spell. If it's an acid, if it's a poison, you got the options for all of those. It's also got the Umbral Tangle here, which will root anyone in this large radius. Now another cool thing about the dog is when it gets attacked, it'll splinter off. If it's a melee attack that doesn't have radiant damage, it'll splinter off into another dog, and those dogs can splinter off into more dogs. So you can have a ton of dogs running around. They're great for breaking concentration. And the summoned dogs that come from this one will also commonly use the Umbral Tangle, which is really nice. So when it comes to the dog, it's not super effective, 42 health. However, if you cast darkness, it can actually hide out in the darkness and not enter combat. And you can kind of cheese with this, because if it's in the darkness, no one knows where it's at. If you have an instance where maybe you're getting hit with Hold Person, you can then control the dog, switch to your dog, attack them, and break their concentration on it. So it's actually pretty useful in certain instances, but its attacks are not likely to hit. Like anyone with decent armor class is going to give you about a 60% hit chance, and then you still have to do the Constitution saving throw. Not likely to land that Ominous Bite, unfortunately, but it grabs aggro, it can splinter off into more dogs, it can break concentration with the Umbral Tangle. It's better than you'd think, but also kind of disappointing in certain aspects. But another thing about the Sorcerer, this ability right here, the Shadow Walk, is extremely useful. So what it does, it's basically Misty Step without using your spell slots to darkness only, but this is very generous, and I'll show you. And you also have your own darkness that you can cast. But you also get the effects of Distance Spell, which allows you to spam some spells really far away. Great for retreating if you need to get away, because basically what you can do is you can use this little teleport here. So Shadow Walk, you can see I can go pretty much anywhere in here. This is all lightly obscured. I know this isn't a combat place, but anytime there's shadow, you can teleport to it, which then gives you an increased range on your spells. So you can see here, we can literally go ahead and hit people that we can't even see with our spells, like behind walls and stuff. Yeah, it's really useful. So you see any of the areas here that have shadows will actually let you teleport to them, not out of the darkness, but shadows itself. So it's, again, very generous with its positioning. Now this isn't the, again, I just said this isn't the best Sorcerer subclass, but it's still a very good one, because you got all these cool new ways to play the game with shadows, and darkness is very powerful in the game. So all in all, I would have to say that the Sorcerer is still S tier. The best spellcaster, as you can play the Draconic Sorcerer and get extra damage on your attacks. Shadow Magic provides a new stealthier way to play the game, and hey, it's a Sorcerer, it's charisma based, it's going to be one of the best out there. So this is still S tier. Next, we got ourselves the Barbarian and the Giant Barbarian, newest subclass. Now, personally, the Giant Barbarian is a thrower. I still think the Throw Zerker is better because if you go with 9 levels of the Barbarian and then 3 levels of the Rogue Thief, you can throw 4 times per turn with your 2 bonus actions and your 2 actions. With the Giant Barbarian, you can only throw twice, so it's 4 times the throws. So Berserker's still going to be the Throw Zerker. However, the Giant Barbarian is more versatile. With the Berserker, there's only like 3 weapons that are ideal: the Returning Pike, the Dwarven Thrower, and Nyrona. With the Giant, you can use anything. The Wild Heart's also really good because you can choose a Bestial Heart. Like the Bear Heart will give you resistance to all damage types except Psychic, which is huge. So that's still really good. I also like the Tiger's Heart because you can get the Tiger's Bloodlust, allowing you to attack 3 targets at once, which is also really nice. But the Giant, what's great about the Giant is you get the Elemental Cleaver, letting you use any weapon as a throwing weapon. We also get the Boot of the Giants, which is a bonus action kick. So while we don't have bonus action throws, we can kick people and suplex them, which is hilarious. So the big thing here, Elemental Cleaver. This allows you to add acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder damage to your throwing attacks. So you can use cold damage and equip the Snowburst ring, and when you throw your weapon, it's going to create ice patches on the ground, which is really nice. And it gives them the thrown property, as I mentioned. Thrown will allow you to use the damage die of the weapon. So if you have a longsword with a 2d6, it'll use a 2d6 instead of a 1d4. So it makes it a lot more offensive, as you can use any weapon in the game now as a throwing weapon, which is really cool. Now the weapons abilities get, if you have a weapon like the Sorcerer weapons that silence targets, throwing them won't actually silence them. But hey, this is still something really nice to have. And at level 10, you get a suplex too. So the Giant Barbarian is really powerful. Since we have the Mighty Impel suplex, as I call it, which you can throw a medium-sized creature or smaller. Since you're large, you can throw pretty much any humanoid that you see. Picking them up and throwing them off of a ledge can completely take them out in one single action, bonus action. So this is very, very effective because of that. Now, this requires you to go to level 10 here. So I think the best multi-class would be to go with something like the Fighter and take Action Surge and get a fighting style. And this is, I think, really effective because if you're at a place where there's ledges that you can drop people into like a chasm and completely one-shot them, you won't get their loot. However, you can take them out really easily. So with that, I think that the Giant Barbarian is, I want to say S tier, but I still feel like there is some classes that do certain damage, like the Monk, a little bit more effectively. The Barbarian is great for roleplay, though. I'm not going to put it in the S tier because people can make an argument for every class being the S tier. The Barbarian is still extremely strong and deserving of potential low S tier to high A tier. But the versatility that's added with the new subclass is just unmatched, with being able to throw any weapon, throw anybody. It's crazy. Now with the Bard, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't like the College of Glamour Bard. Shoot me if you don't like that. But the thing is, it doesn't really offer anything that we can't already do better with the Sword Bard. The Sword Bard, enough said. I'm sure you've heard the song and dance many, many times. Slashing Flourish, very effective. You can also take 2 levels of the Paladin. Your Slashing Flourishes can do Divine Smites off of them. It's an offensive powerhouse and a great spellcaster. The big thing with the College of Glamour, you get the Mantle Inspiration, so you can imbue your teammates with temporary health points, and if they get attacked, it can charm the target. That's all fine and dandy, but it doesn't give you that much temporary health. At max level, it gives you 11 temporary health, which that's going to get depleted really quickly. And you also get a special bonus action that doesn't cost a spell slot. I just want to mention that. Does not cost bonus action. Does not cost spell slots. Bonus action version of command. The thing is, in Act 3, whenever you're likely going to get roughly around the level of the College of Glamour, you can get the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, which lets you, after a weapon attack, do a bonus action, illusion, or enchantment spell. Hold person, command, you name it, as a bonus action with any of the subclasses, but the College of Sword lets you do 2 attacks. Technically, if you use the Slashing Flourish range, you can attack 4 enemies with a single action. So 4 attacks, Arcane Acuity, that's multiple stacks of Arcane Acuity, and then you can go ahead with literally getting your commands off with a much higher % chance of landing them. So it's going to be much more effective than the College of Glamour. Not to mention the College of Swords can also, if you use the Band of the Mystic Scoundrel, you can upcast command. You can command 6 targets at once versus the 1 target with the College of Glamour. College of Glamour just, meh. It's good for roleplay, I guess, if you really wanted to go with a glamorous bard, but the Sword Bard is one of the, I would say, top 3 builds in the game. 10 levels of Sword Bards, so you get the magical secrets, and then 2 levels of the Paladin. This still gives you level 6 spell slots. It gives you Divine Smite, which you can use on your Slashing Flourish, and it's just, again, a very big powerhouse. You also get the command spell from the Paladin, so you don't have to take it as a magical secrets. Yeah, that is going to trump out the College of Glamour. So yeah, I've posted builds before of the College of Sword Bard. It's very, very strong. Again, top 3 build in the game. So I'd have to say the Bard, even despite getting a stinker of a subclass, still S tier. Sword Bard, again, just stomps the game. It makes it really easy once you can get your spell save DC to like 30. Nobody's going to be rolling a 30 to resist your commands or your whole person, so you can just steamroll them with style. So yeah, despite being new, the College of Glamour doesn't do anything we already haven't seen already. Now, when it comes to the Monk, it's similar to the Bard. Like, the way of the open hand, by and far the best. The way of the Shadow, also really good. At level 11, you get the ability to add psychic damage, so 3d6 or 3d8 to your attacks, which is really nice. And it can include weapon attacks, so you get darkness. The way of the Shadow is really fun. The way of the open hand, extremely powerful. This is also a top 3 build in the game. 9 levels of the open hand, 3 levels of Rogue Thief. I've posted videos of it before. It stomps the game. Way of the 4 elements kind of sucks, I'll be honest. It's not that great. And it's mostly about spellcasting and melee attacking, which it doesn't do either of very well compared to like going full open hand or going with a sorcerer. The way of the Drunken Monk, Master Monk, however, is a weird spot. I personally think that this is a role-playing class. It's not meant to be min-maxed. You regain half your key points when you drink alcohol, which is kind of cool. So it does have some fun abilities that's meant for role-playing. It also has some of the coolest attack animation in the game. Whenever you do the Drunken Strike, you throw a bottle up in the air and you punch it into the person's face. So it's cool. I give it style points. But the way the Drunken Master doesn't do anything very effectively compared to the Open Hand Monk. Now, the Open Hand Monk, as I mentioned, still one of the best. It's another top 3 build in the game because it just hits hard. You can do upwards of 100+ damage with a bonus action. You see this here, it doesn't save much. But whenever you use Tavern Brawler, it's going to add, with a Strength Potion, plus 16 to your damage and attack rolls. You can get this over 100 damage per action, which is just crazy. Or per bonus action even, with the Flurry of Blows punching twice. It says 1d4 there, but yeah, that scales up much higher. There's gloves that add an additional 1d10 to your punches too. You can do that the way of the Drunken Master, but it's just fair. You get the benefits of Disengage. The Drunken Master is, I should say, it's fun for role-playing. For actual effectiveness, you're better off going with one of the other options like the Open Hand or the Shadow. I'm not even sure if it's better in the way of the 4 elements. Like, they're kind of tied for not being great. However, at the end of the day, the Open Hand Monk is carrying the Monk heavily, and it's still one of the best builds in the game. So I can't say that the Monk is any lower than top of the A tier, and I even would say like it's close to an S tier. I'll be honest. It's really good. I'm just gonna put it top of the A tier. I do think it is. I might just throw it S tier. It's that good. So we'll go with something that's a little bit less good, I guess. Next, another roleplay class. We'll go with the Rogue here. So with the Rogue, we have a few different subclasses. The Arcane Trickster being my, I think it's the worst subclass in the game, I'll be honest. Swashbuckler being the newest one, giving us the fancy footworks. Whenever you make an attack against a target, they can't make an opportunity attack against you for the rest of the turn. So you run in, attack, run out. You also get the Rakish Hadassi, giving a +2 to initiative rolls, and you also no longer need advantage to trigger sneak attack as long as you're within 1.5 meters of the target, and you don't have disadvantage. So if there's a sole target, if there's 2 targets, you're not going to get the advantage, but if there's 1 target by themselves, you can run up, attack them, and run away. So that's cool. However, the Thief, that extra bonus action, great 3-level dip. That's probably one of the best 3-level dips in the game. As I mentioned, the Open Hand Monk, that extra bonus action is huge. With the Throw Zerker Barbarian that gets bonus action throws and attacks, that extra bonus action, also huge. The Assassin, also great, especially on classes that prioritize first turn burst damage, like a Gloomstalker Ranger who gets an extra attack on the first turn of combat. Advantage on attack rolls against creatures that haven't taken a turn, critical hit on targets that are surprised, and you get the Assassin Alacrity. If you start combat, you get your action bonus action back. Now, the Swashbuckler makes for an interesting 4-level dip, because at level 4, we get our dirty tricks. You get the Flick of the Wrist, and you also get the Vicious Mockery as a bonus action cantrip, and you get Pocket Sand. You can do the Sand Toss, throw some dirt in their eye. Yeah, you got 3 distinct options here for your bonus action. This being great because you can blind a target. I like disarming them because this will do your weapon attack damage. So what's cool about the Swashbuckler is it's a great 4-level dip because you'll still get your feat, and if you take 8 levels in another class, you get 2 feats from them. So it's still kind of nice, but I still feel like out of all the classes in the game, the Thief is probably the weakest, or the Rogue is probably the weakest. It doesn't get an extra attack, and that's where you really feel it, because when everyone else is doing 2 attacks per turn, your damage is effectively not as high. You get sneak attacks, yes, but it's just not as good. If you got like an extra attack at level 8, and there is a mod that gives an extra attack at level 8, I think it makes the Rogue on par with the other classes. then it's good. It's great at outside of combat things too, I might add. However, the Bard just does everything the Rogue can do and better, and it's a full spellcaster, and it's a charisma class. This is good, but of all the classes, I still think the Rogue is one of the weakest in combat. I know there's some people that love the Rogue and tell me I'm wrong. It's the strongest offensive class because of sneak attack. Sneak attack is only one attack, unfortunately, per action. So compared to a fighter who can attack 3 times and the Battle Master fighter who can add additional superiority die to its attacks, I'd have to say it's probably C tier to, I wouldn't say roleplay tier. It's not that bad. All the classes are viable in this game. But it's just, it doesn't have the same magic sauce that the other classes do have. So yeah, I'm gonna have to unfortunately put it there. Next, however, we got ourselves the Cleric. So the Cleric was previously in S tier, and I don't see that changing because things like the Tempest domain got some of the best single target damage in the game. If you go 11 levels of the Tempest Cleric and take a single level of the Wizard, you can get yourself level 6 spells like Chain Lightning, and then your Channel Divinity can maximize the damage. So they can do over 168 damage to 3 targets. That's pretty crazy. 168 damage in D&D is wild, because Create Water can double the damage of Lightning, and Chain Lightning does a lot of damage. You can add your Wisdom modifier to the damage. Yeah, the Tempest domain is really good, but we're here to talk about the Death domain and what it adds to the game. And I'll be honest, it's more of a roleplay niche, kind of like the Drunken Master Monk, as I mentioned, because it's mostly focused around necrotic damage. Now, it makes necrotic damage a lot better, because previously necrotic damage was resisted by everything in their dog. You couldn't hit anybody with necrotic damage and without getting it being halved. And now we can properly, because at level 6 you get inescapable destruction, letting you cast your necrotic damage and ignore resistances. It doesn't ignore immunity, so shadows and things of the such like that are still immune to it. So you do have to have some other spells, but the nice thing is with the Cleric, it has radiant damage spells, so shadows are vulnerable to radiant damage. So there is counters because the Cleric does kind of have that. At the end of the day, it's a Cleric. It gets Spirit Guardians, and this Spirit Guardians you can use the necrotic one to ignore resistances too, which is cool. And it also has the Planar Ally spell, which is one of the best spells in the game. The Genie going around using Teleport and Thunderwave is really effective. You also have the Diva, which is extremely useful too, but I'm a big fan of the Genie summon. The Life Domain, the best healer in the game. The action economy of Baldur's Gate 3 does not favor healers as much as it does favor damage dealers like the Tempest Cleric. But one of my personal favorites is Tempest Domain. However, Light Domain is also extremely good too, because with the Light Domain, you get a lot of bonuses in giving disadvantage to attackers. So with this, I would recommend the Light Domain using Radiating Orb builds, as you can give -10 to enemies' attack rolls, so they're not likely to hit your teammates. You also have the Warding Flare to protect your teammates. It's just this is the ultimate radiant damage and fire damage build. Tempest is the ultimate lightning damage. Death Domain is the ultimate necrotic. So they actually have 3 distinct, very powerful, 2 very powerful. The Death Domain is not, as I would say, very powerful. It gets Blight, which ignores resistance, which is okay. It also gets the Reaper, so your necromancy cantrips can ignore, or can hit multiple targets. You can actually take Bone Chill and then go here and take Bursting Sinew and Toll the Dead, so you can get all the new spells here. Toll the Dead, being able to target 2 people, nice. But the big thing is Bone Chill targeting 2 targets to stop them from receiving healing is also really nice. So with that, I would have to say that the Cleric is still, the Death Domain didn't make it any better. It didn't make it any worse. It just gave people a new option. There's many subclasses for the Cleric. So with that, the Cleric is another S tier choice. I might just move. I think that this is roughly it. The Monk is somewhere around there. Yeah, it's hard to say. I want to put it in the S tier. I just don't want, I guess I'll finalize. This was a really hard list to come up with because it's hard. People will tell me I have too many in the S tier, or sometimes they'll say that I was too harsh or things like that. So yeah, Cleric, extremely useful. I'd say these 3 are so far the best, but we got some more classes here like the Druid, which has a new subclass, which is very good. The Circle of the Stars is quite interesting because this adds a few bonus action abilities that we get. You also get a Guiding Bolt you can use without casting your spell slots, which is nice. It uses the new star maps. Circle of Spores, I think one of the best necromancers in the game. I am a big fan of the Druid. People say the Druid sucks, but it's just due to people not understanding the class as it is. Circle of the Moon is the best transformation. Turning into an Air Myrmidon, you can shock targets 3 times per turn. Shock means that they can't take an action. It's actually really good. The Circle of the Moon is very powerful. Circle of the Land is a caster, but I still feel like the Wizard or Sorcerer is a little bit better. You do have Wild Shape to fall back on, but it's not the same as the Druid, the Moon Druid. The Spore Druid being, again, more of a necromancer, but the Circle of the Stars is interesting because you get these special forms. The Starry Dragon forms, so when you make a saving throw on a concentration spell, you can anything below a 9 is considered a 10. And bonus actions will do Dazzling Breath, which is huge. You also have the Chalice. Whenever you do a healing spell, you can then cast a bonus action heal. And the Archer, whenever you are in this form, you can cast Luminous Arrow, which I'll show you guys. We also get the Cosmic Wheel, or Woes. So Cosmic Omens, whenever you long rest, you consult the stars for Cosmic Omens. This can either increase or decrease attack rolls and saving throws, increase your allies' ability checks. So you can use this as a reaction to save your teammates. The biggest thing with the Druid, though, is Woodland Being. This is a summon exclusive to them. It can hold a concentration on your Spike Growth, which is a very great crowd control spell. They also get things like Ice Storm, which is crowd control as well. You get Minor Elemental, and you also get the Major Elementals. So going into our Starry forms here, this does give us some more abilities that we can use, which are really nice to have. They look cool, but you also have things like the Luminous Arrow here, so this will scale up in damage. It has a cool animation here. You got a little bow and you shoot and you have radiant damage, so this can be nice. Per turn, getting a little extra damage is always fun. Once you reach level 10, they increase by 1d8 for the healing and the harming of the Luminous Arrow. So that in itself is nice, and the dragon gives you the ability to fly around. So you can use this a little bit differently once you reach level 11 here, or level 10 there. So Luminous Arrow now doing the 2d8 plus your wisdom modifier for damage, and it's got a really cool look. I love this little bow that you cast with. Now you can also switch your forms around, so it's not appearing there for whatever reason, but whenever you're in your wild shape, you can change into the other wild shape forms, which is nice. So you got like the dragon form, which I think is awesome. So I think there's, yeah, there we go, they finally showed up properly. So the Dazzling Breath, 46 of this is crazy. The Dragon's Breath is very effective because you got this basically Cone of Cold like attack that does radiant damage, stacking up radiating orbs. You can fly for 6 meters with it. You got movement, mobility, and you can see here you can swap to different chalices as well. So if you wanted to go to the healing chalice, once you cast a healing spell, then you can cast another healing spell. This one doesn't cost a bonus action. It's a free heal, but you get that. It's quite nice to give yourself that additional 2d8 plus wisdom modifier heal. So while the other druids have different abilities, this one's kind of a generalist. It can do spell casting, it can do you can turn into wild shape, but I wouldn't recommend it. You can heal. You kind of got it all going on with the Star Druid. So the Druid is a really good class. I think people underrate it heavily. Yeah, it's got wild shape, the Star Druid being a nice new addition, but the Spore Druid being a necromancer, I'd say it's A tier for sure. So we're gonna roll with that. Next we got ourselves the Fighter. Now the Fighter is the most straightforward class in the game, and for that reason a lot of people love the Fighter. It's great. It's actually really great. The Battlemaster, I think, is the absolute best as far as the fighter choices go. But actually, the Eldritch Knight got a very big buff because of Booming Blade. So Booming Blade is nice because once per action, you can cast this. So if you have haste, you can actually do 2 Booming Blades. Crazy. Booming Blade adds additional 2d6 of, or 2d8 of thunder damage to your attacks. It's almost like a mini smite for free. Doesn't cost a spell slot. So the Eldritch Knight now got boosted up. It's no longer just a throwing class. Because you can also get benefits of thunder damage on your attacks. Now the Arcane Archer, the new kid on the block here, this doesn't really do a whole lot more than what the Battlemaster does. It gives you an option, like you got the Piercing Arrow, which does additional piercing damage and can hit like multiple targets at a time. You have Shadow Arrow, which can blind targets. You got the Seeking Arrow, which is like Magic Missile. You got Grasping Arrow, which can give damage over time if they move. We get Enfeebling Arrow, which can feeble the target, making them do half strength damage. We got Bursting Arrow, which explodes in a huge area. We got the Beguiling Arrow, which can give you a charm on a target for 2 turns. And we got the Banishing Arrow, which is nice because you can just banish a target for 2 turns, which is like a level 4 spell normally, but you get it for free at level 3, which is crazy. So early game Banishing Arrows are quite nice. Banish them for 2 turns. Now, I think the best choice early game, if you're going, or I guess the best choice in general is like the Piercing Shot, the Seeking Arrow, the Banishing Arrow is good too, and Shadow Arrow and Bursting Arrow too. Now, with the Arcane Archer, I still think that the Battlemaster does more damage because you can add your superiority die to the damage that it does. And it's just going to be really effective. The Battlemaster is probably one of the best in the entire game. It's the best if you just want to wear heavy armor and hit people with your sword. Go Battlemaster. Eldritch Knight, however, it did get a buff, and that's because of Booming Blade. So you also get the other new cantrips like Bursting Sinew and Toll the Dead, but man, they're okay. Booming Blade, where it's at, again, because it doesn't add additional damage here, but once you get up to like level 10, then you get the additional 2d8 thunder damage. Massive. So the Fighter did get a huge buff, I would say. The Arcane, it's not because of the Arcane Archer, it's because the Eldritch Knight is now crazier. So with that, I think it's hard not to put them up in the S tier as well. Like, they are really, really effective at what they do. So yeah, Same as the monk. I want to put the monk in the S tier, but yeah, it's the subclasses where they really get carried. Now we got multiple good subclasses for the fighter. The Arcane Archer is also quite nice too, but yeah, the fighter got a massive buff with Booming Blade. Next, we're going to roll with the Ranger, which got itself some nice changes with the new subclass that was added, the Swarm Keeper, which gives an option if you just went for a 3-level dip. So of all the subclasses, the Swarm Keeper it's nice. It gives you additional 1d6 of your gathered swarm, so you can get piercing damage, lightning damage, or psychic damage on your attacks extra, which is nice. For level 3 dip, it's okay. As it continues to level up, the Ranger doesn't have a real good niche. It does shoot arrows, but if you want an arrow shooter, Arcane Archer, or the Battlemaster Fighter, those are your best. Hunter is also kind of nice because it's got your volley attacks. The Gloomstalker being one of the best 3 and 5 level dips in the game, especially if you want to buff up the Ranger or the Rogue, because this can give you +3 to initiative. You get additional movement speed on first turn of combat, and you get an additional attack that does an additional 1d8 damage. So first turn burst damage, Gloomstalker is the way to go. You can turn invisible. You get Misty Step at level 5. The Beastmaster is great if you want a pet, but Elementals are great pets too. And you also can summon in like the Planar Allies, so it's not even the best summon in the game. The Hunter, Swarm Keeper, I would say that the Hunter is probably the best. Gloomstalker is the best dip if you want full. The thing is, the Beastmaster gets his best benefits at level 11, same as the Hunter. The Swarm Keeper is good at like level 3 when it adds this all to the game, but again, not super as effective as some of the other subclasses. And the Gloomstalker is probably the best for dips. So overall, the Ranger just doesn't have a strong niche in the game as the other classes do what it does better. So for that, I'm going to put it in the B tier. It could be like C. It's really, not that amazing, I'll be honest. But next, getting into the Paladin. The Paladin has multiple subclasses, the newest being the Oath of the Crown, which I actually like quite a bit. It makes for a good Radiating Orb build because when you get to level 11 of the Paladin, you get the improved Divine Smite, adding a 1d8 radiant damage to every single melee attack that you do. So it doesn't have to have Divine Smite, you do radiant damage. So if you have Radiating Orb gear, you can stack Rad Orbs, giving those -2 attack rolls. This also has the ability to take damage in place of your teammates. You can also aggro everyone in a 9-meter radius. So this is a true tank of Baldur's Gate 3. There's no better tank than the Oath of the Crown. Oath of Vengeance is my personal favorite. Misty Step and Hold Person level 5. And it multi-classes really well with like the Warlock or the Sorcerer. So yeah, Oath of Vengeance still as strong as ever. Oath of Devotion, it's nice. And same as the Oath of Ancients. The Oath of Ancients is more of a healer, but Vengeance and Crown are my 2 favorites, the Crown being the new kid on the block. So you get this cool ability, Righteous Clarity, adding proficiency bonus to attack rolls, bonus action, so you can give that for 10 turns, which is nice. +4 to attack rolls means you're going to be hitting things more likely, especially if you got like Great Weapon Master, which is -5. You can kind of offset it with the Righteous Clarity here at late game. Oath of Vengeance still, again, as I mentioned, very, very powerful. So this is the Smite class. You go in at level 2, you get Divine Smite. As I mentioned, the best build of the game takes the already amazing Bard and it adds 2 levels of the Paladin to give yourself Divine Smites, commands, and really just the overall full, because this is a half caster, you only get level 3 spells at max. But if you take the Bard all the way up to level 10, you get your 2 attacks still, you get spell casting, you get command, you get everything you want from it. So my favorite builds for the Paladin, 5 or 6 levels of the Vengeance or Crown Paladin, with 6 levels of the Warlock for 3 attacks if you're not playing on honor mode. If you're in honor mode, multi-class with the Sorcerer. It's crazy strong. I even posted a one-shot build yesterday if you use the Shadow Blade, because you can get level 5 spell slots, 48 of psychic damage, which is doubled. So yeah, that's extremely powerful. I personally still think the Oath of Vengeance and my personal favorites, but the Oath of the Crown is a nice substitute if you want to go more of a protector. If you're playing with, let's say, like your significant other, the Oath of the Crown can keep them safe. So that is cool in itself. But yeah, I want to say S tier because it is very good. The Divine Smite being its biggest selling feature, but going Paladin to level 12 is not as good as going to some of the other classes like the Sorcerer or the Bard or the Cleric or the Fighter. So I'm actually going to put it into the A tier because of that. It's still really good. Don't get me wrong. I personally love the Paladin. It was my first ever class I played in Baldur's Gate 3, my first run. It has a near and dear spot to me, but I can't deny it does start to lose its effectiveness after level 6 when the other subclasses still get much better things, like spellcasters get higher level spells. It just doesn't have the same oomph that other classes have. But now we're going to talk about the Warlock, which got a huge change to it. I think this is the biggest change. So with the Warlock, previously we had the Stinker Archfey, we had the Fiend, which I like the Fiend the most. Previously it gave you fire spells like Fireball and Cone of Cold. The great old one, which gave you the mortal reminder when you hit a critical hit, targets must succeed a wisdom saving throw or become frightened for the turn, which is nice, but it wasn't very likely. People said this was really good. From a full playthrough trying this out, the range of that mortal reminder is not very large, and they have to fail that wisdom saving throw, so it's almost like trying to apply a hold person or command. It's not super likely, but the Hexblade changes everything. With the Hexblade, you get the shield spell, which is nice. If you multi-class, that's great because then you have shield. But the big thing is you get Wrath Smite, but you get the Bind Hex weapon at level 1. So I mentioned the Paladin level 11 gets the Divine Smite. You could take this and then go full in on your Charisma. This will make you use Charisma for your attack rolls. And you get the Hexblade's Curse. So whenever you attack a target, they get a bonus. You get a bonus to the hits equal to your proficiency bonus, so +4. And the number you need to roll a critical hits reduced by 1. And as we hit level 6, we can raise an Accursed Spectre from them. So we can raise up a Spectre that summons, it's a summon that just does attacks for you, and it's necrotic damage, not high damage, but it'll draw attacks away, and it's got 40 health. So nice spell list on the Hexblade, but the big thing is you can now get the level 1 Bind Hex weapon. You also get this got a power spike because of Booming Blade. So again, another Booming Blade class. This multi-class is very well with the Paladin. Here's why. So if you take 5 levels of, or let's say just like 6/6 split, you get the 2 attack from the fighter, or from the Paladin at level 5, and then you get 2 attacks from this at level 5. So at level 10, you can attack 3 times per action, faster than a fighter who gets at a level 11. On top of that, you can do Booming Blade once per action. So if you have haste up, you can do Booming Blade, Divine Smite, Divine Smite, Booming Blade, Divine Smite, Divine Smite. By that point, everyone on the battlefield is dead. The Hexblade was the biggest power spike for all the classes in patch 8. Previously, I've ranked the Warlock around B tier because it's good, but on honor mode, it loses a bit of its effectiveness because you only get a few spell slots per short rest, 2 until you reach level 10, then you get the third, or level 11, then you get the 3rd spell slot. That 3rd spell slot is nice, but it's 3 per short rest, and some of these spells, like Shield, doesn't change its effectiveness once you get max level, so this is more so a multi-class, and that's exactly what the Hexblade's all about. It's not great to use your 3 spells at level 11 on Shield, because no real benefit of taking that over, let's say, going with the Blade Singing Wizard. But yeah, with this, the Hexblade becomes one of the best dips in the game. For that, I'd have to throw it into the A tier. Yeah, it's good. You can see here it's kind of top heavy, but Baldur's Gate 3 really benefits from these classes all being quite good. So finally, we got ourselves the Wizard. And with the Wizard, it has the most subclass in the game, tied with the Cleric. It's got a lot, because actually, I mean, it has more than the Cleric, because it has the Blade Singing Wizard now, which is previously the best, and I still think the best is the Abjuration Wizard, because with the Abjuration Wizard you can stack up your Arcane Ward and basically become unhittable. I don't love this playstyle. I've mentioned it before. It's fun for some people, but just not for me and the average player, because it's just about stacking up your Arcane Ward. It almost feels like kind of cheese in the game. And then you have Armor Vagathis up, you run around, and your Armor Vagathis will proc your cold damage on attackers. I think that the Blade Singing is the best new subclass for people that want a straightforward spellcaster melee attacker. The Hexblade's also nice, but with this you can get level 6 spells. So you can get Oluk's Freezing Sphere, you can get Wall of Ice, you can get Globe of Invulnerability, all the powerful level 6 spells. You can also learn from scrolls Dethrone and the Artistry of War, which are 2 spells that you normally don't get. But the big thing with this is it gives you a class that has a cool, unique identity. So you get to choose a weapon here. You get cool attack animations, some of the coolest in the entire game. But the thing with Blade Singing is you get a bonus equal to your proficiency bonus. So you get a +4 to your armor class later on. You get a +4 to your Constitution saving throws. You're not going to be dropping your concentration with this class. So from this, I really do like the Blade Singing Wizard, because 2 attacks at level 6. All the spell casting abilities, you get the Song of Defense. So if you get attacked with a weapon, you can do 5 times the spell's level. So let's say we get attacked with an attack that does 15 damage. We can use a level 3 spell slot to take no damage. That's awesome. So with that, the Blade Singing Wizard, it doesn't make the Wizard that much better. I'll be honest. I still feel like if you want to go full spellcaster, it's better to go Sorcerer. It's better to go Cleric with a single level dip of Wizard so you can learn spells. If you wanted to go melee attacker with a dip into melee, like a melee attacker spellcaster, the Hexblade Warlock and the Blade Singer are kind of tied. I think the Blade Singer is slightly better from my testing and playing. I've put a couple hundred hours already. But I personally do enjoy the Blade Singing Wizard. And I think it's a fun class for new people. But with that, I'm going to put it probably low A tier. So we could probably see it somewhere around there to top of the B tier. The biggest benefit of the wizard is being able to scribe spells from scrolls, but you can do that from a single level dip. So as I mentioned, Tempest Cleric, if you went full in on the Tempest Cleric, went to a level 11, get all your fancy benefits, take a single level of the wizard, and then also kind of build around that, it can be extremely strong. So because then you can learn Chain Lightning and cast it with maximum damage. But the Cleric is doing the heavy lifting there because of its Channel Divinity, which maximizes damage rolls and guarantees that you do maximum damage. So for casting, you're better with a Sorcerer or a Cleric. For melee attacking and spell casting, the Bard, the Paladin, Paladin multiclass, even the Eldritch Knight now with Booming Blade is a little bit better, I would say, because 3 attacks with Booming Blade is pretty crazy, and you can also do throwing attacks. So overall, I think that this is the best choice of classes. The Monk and the Paladin could be up in the S tier as well, but somewhere's around there. The Warlock previously was like right around here, so as I feel like somewhere's around there. You got a big boost with this Hexblade subclass. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. I always enjoy reading these because sometimes people get heated over this if their favorite class got ranked a little lower than they think. I know everyone thinks their favorite class is S tier, but in terms of the overall damage output and combat effectiveness, I think that these are the best 4 in Baldur's Gate 3's patch 8. The meta did shift a little bit, making the Warlock better. Shadow Magic Sorcerer is now a very powerful option. The Fighter got a biggest boost, I would say, with Booming Blade for the Eldritch Knight, but let me know, get your thoughts in the comments again. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and I'll see you all in the next video.